Getting out of the Marine Corps in 1986, it wasn't like it was now. There was no veterans outreach to try to help you assimilate. You know, I had a ragtag resume. So I applied for a job at American Express. I thought I could be a phone rep. And I remember the human resources representative said to me, "You guarded this country. We think you'd be great at guarding this front desk." So they made me a security guard.
Welcome back to Veteran Led. Today's guest is Tony Goins, former Marine Sergeant, corporate executive, entrepreneur, and public servant. Welcome to the show, Tony.
John, it's an honor to be here. But before we start chatting, I want to give a huge shout out to Berry Law Firm and John, your leadership. I'm a Berry Law Firm client. Shout out to Seth Chambers for all of the support he's given me and helping me to get my benefits, and also the Camp Lejeune water scenario. But what you all have done in the veteran community, John, is absolutely unparalleled and unmatched. So I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank Berry Law Firm. You guys are the best.
Well, thank you. If it wasn't for veterans like you, we wouldn't be doing this. And the reality is you have done what many veterans aspire to do. You made your post-service history bigger than your military history. And we all know the guys that get out and they live in their museum and they don't do anything else. They think, well, I served and that's it. But
Yeah.
You have done so much more. Now we know that you were a sergeant in the Marine Corps.
Yes, indeed.
I want to take you through the time where you got out of the Marine Corps
I did.
and you tried to find a job.
Couldn't do it. You know, I got out of the Marine Corps. I went to the Marine Corps in 1982, July 6th to be specific. My MOS, I was an M60 machine gunner, which is 0331, and then I had secondary MOS of an 0121. So I worked in the office as a battalion legal chief and legal clerk, while also humping that machine gun in the field. And when I got out, I didn't have any skills. And you know, getting out of the Marine Corps in 1986, it wasn't like it was now. There was nobody saying, "Thank you for your service." There was no veterans outreach to try to help you assimilate. You know, I had a ragtag resume, and really no gear, no suits, no clothes, and didn't know what to do. So I applied for a job at American Express. I thought I could be a phone rep. And I remember the human resources representative said to me, "You guarded this country. We think you'd be great at guarding this front desk." So they made me a security guard. Sure did. And that was in 1986. Yeah, late 1986.
Now at some point you apply to become a loan officer and you're told no.
Yeah. Well, what happened was, you know, John, you know, being in the military, you always want to look good in your uniform. And so in my security guard uniform, I had my aunt that kind of tailored it for me and made it fit like my dress blues. And then I always had very polished shoes when I went to work. So there was a director at American Express, Malcolm Mitchell, and he would interact with me almost every day. There's 6,000 people in this building, but Malcolm would take the time to interact with the little security guard. And one day he asked me, he says, "You think you do anything else other than guard this front desk?" And I said, "Malcolm, I'm married, 2 kids, and I'm making $6.01 an hour right now. And I'm unloading trucks at night just to be able to make ends meet. All I need is an opportunity." So this guy takes me upstairs and he allows me to shadow a credit authorizer / loan officer. And I remember I took very copious notes. And in 2 hours, I went back in his office and I regurgitated the job, the mission, the goals. He said, "You learned all of that in 2 hours?" I said, "Yes, sir." So the next day he goes to Human Resources and he says, "I'm going to hire a security guard to be a credit authorizer." And they put up significant resistance. And this guy said to the head of Human Resources, "This is my choice. I believe in this 23-year-old kid, and I'm gonna give him my, I'm gonna hire him." And that's what he did. He hired me with no experience, no background, no post-secondary education. Malcolm Mitchell gave me that opportunity.
And if we get that opportunity, it's just the opportunity. Because for you, that was just the beginning.
That was the beginning, because indeed you have to deliver. So 90 days of credit authorization loan officer class. I graduated in the top percentile of the class. And then it's time to go to the floor and perform. You got to do your job now. And, you know, in less than a year, I was in the top percentile of the credit authorizers across American Express. And in 9 years, had significant promotions there. So I went from being a security guard to a senior manager in the ops area, and it was a good run. Yeah, sure was. Wouldn't have happened if Malcolm hadn't given me that opportunity and if I hadn't presented myself in a way that said, I think this young man has some potential.
And it took off from there.
It took off.
At some point, you're at USAA.
Yeah.
So how did you get there?
Yeah. Well, a few steps in before that, I followed Malcolm very briefly to QVC, and then I was recruited to Cleveland, Ohio. My very first banking job was Key Bank, Cleveland, Ohio. And then I did a 9-year stint with Ford Motor Company on the credit side of the business. Led large operations, ended up in Las Vegas, Nevada. And then I get the call from USAA. And I'd always respected USAA because of its military origins, its dominance in the customer service arena. Everybody knew USAA, and it was the platinum standard. And I wanted to understand, part of what I think is really key, John, and you talk about hip pocket training. At the end of the day, you can never stop learning, and you must always aspire to learn more. And USAA has something that I wanted to learn. And what was the secret to being able to create that level of trust with the consumer and that level of customer service and the level of profitability? And so I did. I took the job at USAA. I relocated to San Antonio, Texas. It was a great run. It was so funny because I joined USAA in 2007, and General Joe Robles was the CEO at the time. And he called all of his military veterans. He still called us by our rank. So I hadn't been in the Marine Corps since 1986, but Joe still called me Sergeant Goins. He was an incredible leader, commander's intent. This guy, former 3-star general in the Army, would spend hours on top of hours every month with all of his senior leaders at American Express, ensuring that we understood the commander's intent. It all starts with the member. You create trust in the member. You treat the member with the highest level of respect. And when you do that, the member trusts you, and that creates a level of profitability because it's not just about one product. It's about the insurance product, car insurance, the banking products. Just an incredible leader. Great experience.
And that's not where your career ended. In fact,
No.
you got a call after that.
Yeah. Jamie Dimon was always a leader that I had followed. I'd followed Jamie Dimon. I remember when I was a security guard at American Express, and Amex had a star-studded board. So you had Henry Kissinger on the board. You had Gerald Ford on the board. You had Sandy Weil, who was a part of the Shearson Lehman organization. And all these guys that came down for a board meeting. And because you had the former president on the board, you had the Secret Service. And I remember signing these guys in as a security guard. And I saw Jamie Dimon come in. It was something that resonated with me. And I followed his career from Citibank to Bank One, and then the acquisition, merger, and conglomerate of JP Morgan Chase. I said, I want to work in that guy's organization. And a lot of times when you speak something, you never know how it's going to turn out, because then I got a phone call, and it was an opportunity to go work for JP Morgan Chase. So I went through 33 interviews. My last 2 interviews, Charlie Scharf, who's now the chairman, president, CEO of Wells Fargo, and Frank Bisignano, who is now the chairman, president, and CEO of my current organization, Fiserv. They were my last 2 interviews, and I was hired as the global head of operations for the automotive and student business. So I had teams in Manila, Cebu, small teams in India, Mexico, and then across all of North America.
And so you have these teams, and things are going well, and then the financial crisis hits.
Financial crisis hits, yeah.
2008, so tell us about that.
Well, you learn more during the crisis than you do during great times. And at the time, Elizabeth Warren had created this organization called the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You had the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, which was the OCC. You had JP Morgan Chase, which came to the rescue to somewhat save the financial system by purchasing Bear Stearns after the fall of a number of large financial institutions, and then also Washington Mutual. So you had the government that was doing significant bailouts. JP Morgan Chase didn't need the bailout, but everybody took the money. You had the automotive company. It was a perfect storm. It was a significant, what I call compound risks. High unemployment, financial institutions running out of money, just a perfect storm. And it was very intense. I mean, John, you're talking 16-hour days, 7 days a week. It did not stop. It was extremely challenging. And this was all triggered by Lehman Brothers going under. So I didn't have to watch the movie.
You lived it.
I lived it, absolutely. Sure did.
And at some point too, as a lawyer, we love to take depositions, but you've been on the other side during that, and it's not a pleasurable experience.
It's not. When you have to sit in front of the OCC or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and atone for things that may have not happened on your watch. A lot of the challenges that we had to explain and remediate were based on acquisitions. So you get this Washington Mutual portfolio. I mean, that was a challenging portfolio, and they had significant issues in terms of the way they had managed their customers. But once you acquire it, you own it. So you got to explain it, you got to fix it. And through that scenario, I started to really understand the essence of enterprise risk management and the essence of having a pristine control environment and how you use those levers to help grow your firm. Great learning experience.
And through all this, you're moving through all these great corporate opportunities.
Yeah.
How do you find yourself an entrepreneur?
Well, John, that's a great question, man.
I've enjoyed cigars for, well over 35 years. But ironically, I had connected with then Governor Pete Ricketts. And I remember I asked him, did he enjoy cigars? And he says, no, my father enjoys cigars, but I really enjoy Scotch. I said, what's your favorite Scotch? He said, well, Oban 14, but on special occasions, I'll have an Oban 18. Bingo. And so I went and bought a bottle of Oban 18 for him. I did a handwritten thank you note, and I dropped it off at the Capitol. And about a day later, I get a call from his handler, and he says, Governor Ricketts, can't believe you took the time to do a handwritten thank you note, and you gave him a bottle of Oban 18. He wants you to come to the governor's mansion.
I thought he was going to say, he can't believe he gave this thank you note, and that was it, because the handler took the Scotch, right?
Yeah, he said he'd like you to come to the governor's mansion. He wants to spend some time with you. So, and he said, I would like for you to bring Tim Clare with you, who is an attorney over at Rimbaud Lucky. So Tim and I went to the governor's mansion, and for about 2.5 hours, we spent time with then Governor Pete Ricketts. There was no conversation about politics. We talked about faith, family, and it was a wonderful bonding experience. Not knowing that years later, after we sold the Cabela's Bank to Capital One, that Pete Ricketts would call and ask me to join his cabinet.
Wow.
But that's how I found it. That's how our relationship started. Yeah.
And while you're doing that, this comes into fruition.
This comes into fruition.
The Capital Cigar Lounge.
2018, after we sold Capital One, sold Cabela's to Capital One, I met my partner Austin Hillis, and Austin owned the Capital Cigar store. But John, as you know, it really comes down to relationships. That sign says sit with winners because the conversation is different. #relationships matter. And there was no real place where people could congregate and have real conversation and enjoy great cigars and great cocktails or scotches or bourbons. And so when it doesn't exist, you have to create it. So I said to Austin, we're going to do something really special here in Lincoln. And we found this location, hired a designer. We wrote the values of this business in the dirt. So our mission statement is we create many vacations for our friends. Our values are treat customers like friends because relationships matter, create an unparalleled experience with every visit. We wanted to hire a team that was professional while having fun, and we operate for the greater good of the community. We did all that in the dirt.
Yeah, and while this is going on, you're mentoring an MBA student who is now a Barry Law team member.
Yeah.
He's working on his MBA, and I think that's how we met. So you got to meet Tony Goins.
Yeah.
He's my mentor. He's gonna so we meet there, and you got to come to the cigar bar.
Yeah.
And what I found, what's so special about it is that anybody can go to a bar and hang out and drink with the same people, but that's you're kind of wasting your life away.
That's right.
You developed a community where business leaders come to meet with other business leaders, to have a cigar, to talk. There's always plenty of non-alcoholic drinks as well.
That's right.
And then they come here and hang out. It's amazing. You come into the lounge and you never know who you'll meet.
Oh, I'll tell you, so we have a public lounge, but the private lounge was really created for what you just said, John. to create another level of intimacy so there could be some conversation about business. And I can tell you, in the 6 years this lounge has been here, north of $20 million worth of B2B, member to member, has occurred right back here in this private lounge. Very intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times when we get those cold calls or someone wants to meet in our office, it's pretty stuffy and
That's right.
people are on guard and you don't really get to know that person that you're going to do business with.
That's right.
And
That's
to
right.
take the time to get to know them. And I'm sure, look, I've been burned by a lot of vendors. I'm sure you have too. But
That's
when
right.
you take the time to get to know them, especially, there are veterans here that I didn't know. I knew them from the business community.
That's right.
But then we sit down, we start talking, it turns out that they served in the Army, the Navy. And
That's right.
we developed that common bond, developed some trust. And I always say, I want to work with a company that they want me to be their best customer. They want me to be the person that when people think of their company, they think this is the type of customer they have because
right.
they care about my success. And you have done a marvelous job of inviting those people into your organization, into the lounge, and saying, hey, this is about relationships.
About
Business is about relationships.
That's
and
right.
Then you come in and you mentor people, and this is what I really like: is that you come in here and for Tony, for the price of a cigar, sometimes a drink, you'll get a business lesson. You'll get mentored. And I can remember one time I reached out to you about something. And you said, well, have you found your new COO yet? Can I help you? What can I do? And it's always, there's this service first type of attitude that you're going to take care of us. And I love the story where you're serving in the Marine Corps and you get to hear from Ronald Reagan. Take us to that moment.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was right after the Beirut, Lebanon scenario, 243 Marines and sailors, as I can remember, it was October of 1983. They were killed in Beirut, Lebanon, and President Reagan came to Camp Lejeune. I knew at that point, once President Reagan came to Camp Lejeune, clearly I was going to not to be political, but President Reagan was my commander-in-chief. And I say to this day, I'm a Reagan Republican because of his leadership and his empathy. And we were his Marines. We felt like we were President Reagan's Marines. And so significant impact to see the President of the United States come and share words after such a tragic incident in the history of the United States Marine Corps and the United States Navy and this country. Yeah.
And that's where he said, your lives matter. What you do matters to this country.
He did say that. That's right. I think every Marine at that point in time had a sense of pride and a sense of dignity and a greater sense of respect in terms of our service to the country and what we needed to do to defend our freedoms. It was amazing, John.
Because we hear such the post-Vietnam military, right? We hear all the bad things, but this was a great moment.
It was an amazing moment.
I want to take it to the after-action review. The 3 examples of great leadership you experienced, and 3 examples of horrible leadership.
Wow. I would say 3 examples of great leadership. I would say first and foremost, I think back to Malcolm Mitchell. I mean, here's a guy, I think great leadership, somehow you got to recognize talent. And talent doesn't always come in this type of package that you think is going to come in. And that is having the ability to be able to connect with someone and almost see that person's soul and be able to say, you know what, I see something here, and be able to help that flourish. I also go back to preparation. Preparation, I have what I call 6 Tonyism. Preparation is number 1. Because at the end of the day, your ability to prepare, to understand what you're about to get into, study, know your material, know exactly what the script is going to be. That level of preparation, what it does is it minimizes the probability for failure and it increases your confidence. And so that automatically increases the opportunity for success. If you do not prepare, then you increase your opportunity for failure. So the best leaders that I've been around, their preparation is maniacal. Pete Ricketts. I mean, I did numerous trade missions with Governor Ricketts at the time, from Germany to a number of trade missions to Japan. And I would see him take an entire binder And you're talking currency conversions, you're talking local nuances, and literally memorize all of that information without looking at one sheet of paper in front of him. That level of preparation so that you perform with excellence. And when you're around people that prepare to that extent, then it inspires you and it takes your game up. And then number 3, I would say you got to lead by example. Like you have to lead by example. You got to be out front. And I'll tell you, man, I think our current CEO, Frank Bisignano, I mean, when you look at what Fiserv has been able to do over the last 5 years, since the merger of the first date of Fiserv, Frank has been that constant leader, that constant motivator. He talks to clients. He'll give clients his phone number. He's a driver. Don't get me wrong. And execution and operational excellence is top of agenda. But this guy gets in there and he pushes, and he leads from the front.
And he understands the value of veterans. And in fact,
he does.
He had a great initiative this past, I think it was November.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Fiserv was voted the #1 veterans organization by one of the military magazines. Frank, last year around November, Frank said, I want you guys to hire in Nebraska 100 veterans in 30 days. And of course, he gives us these missions that we think we can't accomplish. But it was all hands on deck, John, all hands on deck. And right here in the state of Nebraska, Fiserv hired 100 veterans in 30 days, created this veterans military program to wherein we acclimated them to Fiserv. We had a chance to understand their skills, and then we matched them with the appropriate position in Fiserv, because we believe that the values and the leadership that you learn when you serve this country are applicable to corporate America, specifically in the fintech space.
Awesome.
Yes.
Now the bad examples.
Boy, bad examples. I won't call names and I won't call places, but I will say, bad examples, I think first and foremost, lack of communication. Because when you don't communicate, then you have lots of misalignment. Alignment is, John, when we march in straight line, 30 in step. It sounds like
9 to the front, 6 to the rear.
9 to the front, 6 to the rear. It sounds like one boot. And I've been around leaders that are very poor communicators, and that misalignment tends to hinder the organization from being able to succeed. So I'd say first, lack of communication. Secondly, it's always about leaders that is always about them. When you hear a leader that says, me, 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 John, you and I know we don't do nothing without a team, without the people that are around us that make us great. When you look at Barry Law, I look at all of your teammates. They represent your brand, which is your name, in a pristine manner. So leaders that are always about themselves, they always call their names first. It's about me. It's about me. That hasn't worked out well. I will tell you right now, I sit here today because of the people that I've worked with, the teammates that I've had, the mentors in my life, and my family that has supported me throughout my career. Without that, I don't sit here. This is not about Tony Goins. So leaders that are always about me, that's poor. And then third, leaders that can't execute. Like, it used to be so funny, John, because there was this one leader. She had the best PowerPoint presentations. I mean, the PowerPoint presentations were absolutely amazing. And she was a great presenter, great communicator, but couldn't execute her way out of a paper bag. So I say, listen, it's great to have these great PowerPoint presentations with the screens moving around and graphics, but can you go from the boardroom to the field and execute and deliver? And leaders that are really good at PowerPoint presentations but can't execute, very poor. Those are my 3 poor examples.
Well, and it's the non-commissioned officer. I mean, you want to execute, you have the non-commissioned officer.
That's right.
Get it done. And we used to say, officers plan, NCOs execute.
NCOs execute.
And it's so true. And I've seen officers completely fail in the field. They may have taken all the time to write this beautiful op order, but you know what? They didn't communicate it well enough to their NCOs. They didn't involve the NCOs in the planning process. They didn't take the NCOs through the rehearsals.
Right.
And then they can't execute. Well, of course you can't execute it.
That's right.
Because you didn't involve the backbone of the military military in the execution.
In the
You can't do
execution.
it by yourself.
You can't. So that's where I've seen leadership fail. Those three things.
Man, I almost want to like end it right there because that's awesome. Anything else you want to talk about, Tony?
You know, John, what I will say is I get back to, you know, this community and the leaders here and, you know, Barry Law Firm. I mean, the position that you all have taken in this community and around the country to support veterans, you know, people just don't understand. If you have not worn a uniform, you have no clue as to what it's really like to put yourself in a position where you have to protect your country and protect freedoms. And then when you leave and you have to acclimate to the civilian world, my acclimation was a little challenging, you know. I didn't have, you know, people to say, hey, Tony, this is what you're supposed to do. And, you know, we use a lot of profanity in the Marine Corps, but that doesn't work too well in corporate America when you hit the floor. And we use this language, you know, port side, starboard side, deck. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was still marching. I still wore a high and tight haircut. And I just didn't initially acclimate to the civilian world. So the things that you guys do, and a lot of service people are the same way. But what I see your firm, when I see Barry Law, what you do is you hire veterans, you help them get assimilated back into the civilian world. They maintain the same level of esprit de corps and the things that made them really great leaders in the military. But then there's a level that they have to assimilate. And somehow, John, you all have been able to blend both, which is absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you. And we have to credit that to the military. And I'm going to take you back to your beginnings before you went to the military. What was life like before you went into the military?
Man. Well, you know, I was born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was raised in a single family home with my mother, who was a phenomenal lady, and my grandmother, who was a phenomenal lady, Laverne Goins and Mabel Davis. My mother was an educator. She taught at junior high, high school, and the collegiate level, and she was my role model. Laverne was a hard worker, and she instilled some values in me. And I love my father. My father was around, but I was with my mother, and she was just a great lady. You know, I became a teenage parent. You know, my daughter Tony Goins Brockman was born when I was 17. And that was really the inspiration for me to join the Marine Corps, because that young lady, that little baby needed benefits. You know, she needed to be taken care of financially. And at the time, the Marine Corps gave that opportunity to me. I had wrestled in high school, so I was used to being in shape, and I was junior class president and senior class president, so I had the beginnings of some leadership skills. But, you know, becoming a parent at a young age, I had to make some quick adjustments to be able to make sure that she was taken care of.
Yeah, that's a lot of growing up really quick. Become a parent, go into the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And then you come out and you start all over again.
Start all over again. Yeah. It's all good though. Grace of God, hard work, and good people around me. I have no complaints. None.
And going back to the beginning, from being a Marine Corps sergeant to being a corporate executive, an entrepreneur, a public servant, how do you keep going? Because you got to be at least 60 now.
I am 60, yeah.
And so how do you keep that flame going, that drive?
Well, you know, I think, John, I think first and foremost, it's in your head. You know, I still have a lot of gas in the tank. I still have tons of energy. So I think it starts with your mind. And then, you know, heck, man, I'm in the gym every day. You know, I had hernia surgery here recently, and so I've been out of the gym. But other than that, I'm in the gym every day. And, you know, I still get up at 4:15, 4:30 in the morning. It's time to go to the gym because, you know, you got to be physically fit. As long as you keep pushing that iron. You know, these cufflinks, my youngest daughter, Jayla, brought me these cufflinks because at 59, I bench pressed 240 pounds. So it's got 240 on these cufflinks, and I wear them with a lot of pride. So you just got to keep pushing iron. You got to keep your cardio up. You got to stay physically fit, and that's the key. And you know, if I may say, there has to be some level of spirituality. You know, for me, you know, it's about, you know, my faith and my wife Kim, who takes really great care of me, and you know, it's a good thing. So, John, I tell you, this has been a great conversation, but I must say that we both married up. And I will tell you, my wife, Kim Goins, has just been just a wonderful supporter for me. She's been my rock. She's been in my corner. I can't say enough about her. And I really appreciate her so much. And man, she's pretty tough too. And you're married to a tough woman yourself, man. Mallory, man, I love seeing her picture on the billboard and what she's been able to accomplish in her career. But you just don't accomplish things unless you have a good woman behind you and a good woman beside you, and sometimes a good woman in front of you. And Kim plays all three of those roles for me.
We're not just coming home at the end of the day to someone
right.
who's been sitting there waiting. We're coming home to someone who has their own mission.
That's right.
And when you have someone who has a mission, you've got a mission, it becomes so infectious.
It does.
You come home, you feel the energy, and it's like, hey, we got a mission. And the other person has but you know what? Nobody understands.
That's right.
Until they're in the arena. And we can talk about fair all day long. The only F word I won't use, right? I just use it. I'll bleep it out, fair. But I got to they understand that. They understand that life isn't fair. Because we've both been kicked in the face a couple times.
We have.
And sometimes it's our fault.
That's right.
Most of the times it's our fault.
That's
but
right.
You know what? To have somebody who not only says, well, I'm there for you, but someone who understands, really understands. And that's why I think the veteran community is so important. Because we really understand, right? When I meet Tony, introduces me, so you say, man, he's one of us. He's one of us. He's a veteran. He's in business. He gets it. He's been where we have been. And so when I think about, Kim and you, it's the same way. She's got a whole life outside of Tony Goins.
She does.
She does. Plenty to do without Tony. But having that synergy, when you get together, being able to share those experiences, share that drive. I mean, there's that energy feeds, right?
It does.
And just like you and I, we can sit back, we have great conversations.
That's right.
Come back, feel energized. Like I said, you can go to a bar downtown somewhere and drink and hang out with people that don't have a future, that gossip about other people. But you come here and we're talking about doing big things.
That's right.
And what's
All
our
the time.
future look like? And we're pushing each other. And I think when you can come home to that too, your whole life revolves around your future, not your past, but where you're going. And you need a partner who wants to go the distance.
You do. And I have that in Kim Goins, and I appreciate her. And you have that in Mallory. So we married up, buddy. That's right.
Absolutely. And Tony, one other thing that you have done to give back to the community is Tuesday nights, young professionals. You'll invite young professionals to come up to share their experiences. We're talking about young CEOs who, in the tech industry, in just about every industry, to come in here and to share their stories.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had wonderful CEOs. We've had you, John.
Twice. I'm so fucking twice.
Hip pocket training, baby.
Yeah, hip pocket
training. Oh man, we've had our guys that started Huddle, David Graff and John Wirtz. We've had Jeff Norhook, who was one of the co-founders of Nelnet. We've had Jay Wilkerson, who founded Firespring. We've had Joey. We've had Matt Plooster and his wife Natasha, who founded Bridgepoint Investment Bank. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I actually wrote a book called Something in Water, Story of Lincoln's Founders and Builders. And a lot of the leaders that are in that book have come here to the lounge and had a chance to share their stories and mentor and talk to young entrepreneurs about here are the things that are necessary for you to continue to grow and to create a great operation and a great business. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining us today on Veteran Led, where we pursue our mission of promoting veteran leadership in business, strengthening the veteran community, and getting veterans all of the benefits that they earn. If you know a leader who should be on the Veteran Led podcast, report to our online community by searching @Veteran Led on your favorite social channels and posting in the comments. We want to hear how your military challenges prepared you to lead your industry or community, and we will let the world know. And of course, hit subscribe and join me next time on Veteran Led. I'm creating the smoke for the
I love it.
smoke machine.
I love it.